let me welcome my guest.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brother Edward Ajak. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you. Let me greet all your viewers across the world. Happy New Year to those who are in Australia, who have already crossed over to 2023. I want to also wish early Happy New Year to those who are about to enter it, especially in Africa, in East Africa, and in South Sudan. And then also those of us who are still in the West. I think also in a few hours, we will be entering the new year 2023. May it be a year of peace, happiness, and prosperity for all the people of South Sudan and all the people of the world. May it be the year that we are able to restore peace, justice, and liberty to our country. May it be the year that we reclaim our government back as the people of South Sudan. It's going to be a great year. I'm very excited. I'm glad that we are ending 2022, reflecting on the issues of South Sudan. I want to also wish the people of South Sudan belated Merry Christmas and the people around the world. I hope that the time was joyful and we were able to reflect on the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ, what it means for us as a Christian, as we forgive one another, and we look forward to a new year where we recommit ourselves in our faith to upholding the values of our faith as Christian. I want to also express my condolences to all the Christians around the world on the passing of Pope Benedict XVI. He is a great man, a guy who did something that has not been done in history of the Catholic Church in more than 600 years. You will recall that Pope Benedict XVI resigned the papacy in 2013, and he retired to a life of prayer and reflection and meditation. And he did that saying that he had age, that his age has made him infirm to be able to carry out the functions that are required by his office. This was Pope Benedict XVI 9 years ago. At the time, we did not know that God will give him another 9 years to live, but we are glad that he was with us until this day. May the Lord receive his soul. My condolences to all the faithful. When he was a Cardinal Ratzinger, he did a lot of great work. I remember when I was studying an undergraduate at La Salle University, we had a chance to engage with him. He was a highly respected scholar and theologian. So he is really a great man. So my condolences to his family and to all the faithful around the world. He was a great man. I also want to wish my condolences to the people of South Sudan on the passing of Commander John Kong Nguyen. He was also a great commander. He was a man of national unity. He was a unifying figure for our liberation struggle and for the cause. He was a great leader as a Minister of Defense and also when he was a governor. One of the great things I remember about him was when he was appointed to be Minister of Defense. He used to joke that, my people, leave me in peace. I have done my job. Let Majanga God be the one running the ministry, because, Majanga God at the time was the Deputy Minister of Defense. But, he was kept there. Even recently, while he was in his bed battling with cancer, he was put again on political bureau. And he's someone that has said consistently that he needed time to retire. So his loss is a great one. We is sad already that we'll be entering 2003 without these two great individuals. But I'm glad, Edward, to be here with you today and to have a conversation with you. I'm not coming with answers. My indi juwabat le swalad kulu. عندي ideas بتاعي وبعدين أنا داير conversation عشان دي مشكلة بتاعنا كلنا as جنوبين. And we cannot say Peter Bair is expert or Edward Ajak is expert, he's activist. Yes, I have my opinion and I have my angle, the way I see things. لكن the way I see them may be different. ممكن يختلف the way you see them, Edward. So I want this to be a conversation with you, starting here in the studio, and also with the viewers. They should engage with us. Those who are here on Facebook, those who are in Clubhouse, let us engage in a conversation, because this is a serious challenge. And it is our responsibility as people of South Sudan to engage this, because this is the center of the crisis that we have been facing in the country. This is the center of why we have civil war that is going on in the country. President himself, he said it during his Christmas message, that we have been dealing with power struggle. So why do we have power struggle? How come we have been going through power struggle? What is the cause of it? Is it simply because we do not want the president to be in power? Is that why we are talking about failed leadership and the need for political transition? Because sometimes when you listen, it's as if people don't understand what the problem is. The problem is not that so and so is in power. Of course, in any country, it can only be ruled by one individual at a time. That is obvious. You cannot have two leaders simultaneously, one leader. But there has to be a process for which others who are not currently in leadership, if they have ambition, should have opportunity to be able to get there, right? That is why in constitutions, it is made clear that there are elections and there are legal procedures that exist for ensuring that there is conduct of elections, because ambition is a human gift. It's like intellect. It's like hope. It's like faith. You cannot have a human being without ambition. So the notion that people are not going to aspire for the highest office, that is misguided. Human beings are always going to aspire to be leaders. They're going to aspire to be wealthy. They will aspire to be noted. That is part of our DNA. You need to study evolution history to understand. It's natural. That is how we are raised. From the time you are a child, your parents, the plan inside you, in your mind, ideas about what you can become, the potentials that you are painted with, sometimes seems limitless. So it's going to be natural that you will have human beings that want to be leaders. So how do you do this in a way that is stable, way that allow for a country to be developed and be built up, rather be torn aside every time by violence? Well, look at history. History is full with examples. How did we even come to have elections? Most of the time in human history, what people had was monarchies. These were people that wanted to rule for life, people that believe that what is important in life is to acquire power. And when they get it, they will hold on to it and they will want to pass it on to their children. They do not think that power belongs to the public. They see power belonging to them individually. They see it as theirs. They see it as belonging to their family, right? And then that is why we then had kingdoms. And then the king has the group around him that is protecting power. So they became the lords. And then the people were suppressed. They own the land. So in your own land, you will be paying rent. Like this is how basically it happened in Europe. You will be paying rent to the knight, who is the lord of your local area. This will be someone like a commissioner. So he owned the land. So for you to farm, you pay him taxes. And he can come and kill you. You can do whatever. And when he dies, he passes it on to his children. This was the system. And then what happened? People oppose it. And they oppose it by any means necessary, including violently. This is why you had 1,000 years of warfare in Europe. that created the modern state. For those who are interested, you can read Charles Tilly on violence and coercion and European state. This is a natural human history. People are going to aspire for a better life. They're going to think better of themselves. They want to be noted. They want to be seen as worthy individuals. And they're going to do things that are necessary to prepare themselves for that, including violence. So that one is natural. So we should not be surprised that people are interested in power. How can they not? And especially, by the way, Edward, an environment in which the leaders are not performing. So if you take, for example, in South Sudan, the president wonder, why are we having power struggle? Okay, one of the reasons why we have power struggle is because the person who is in power is not performing. Yeah? A leader who guide us of his sulta, ma bamul shokol beto. The tape the tape you played before, he said it. That those who are fighting for Upper Nile, what is he going to do? Anabamul, you know. He doesn't know that he has a role to play, right? And if he doesn't know after being in power for 17 years, then are you surprised if I read to you the statistics, what has happened during his time in power? What has happened during his time in power? If he says, right, those who are fighting, you fight, and whoever run from the other one, yes, you can come, I will protect you. Whatever little soldiers I have, I will use them to protect myself. And then those who are defeated, you cannot say you are a man anymore.
Let me play that tape for you.
Please.
Let me play it for you and for the Junubin.
Please.
Yes. Let me play that tape.
Tamchi da shalu ana ma bamshi le kumtane wala bayi na yi komiti shan yamshi le mantiga bata chakala da ashwaya jej bitaida ana baji bu jambi na gardon nafsi be jej da wal bolis kuna shufit kum beji men wen ay zol al batrudu bade ne nu yajri ya ubeji ni hineda. So I have decided that no ay chakala tane ma bu wadi fok wala askari wala bolis makalikum da shakal lakad ma one section yajiri manatani lo man tajiri man zol kan bi shakal mak utaji hineda ana baji bisadak kana bidafa anak ubadak ma tatkalam tani karajul.
Before you answer Dr. Peter Bair Ajak and we continue the conversation, let me welcome my co-hosts in Clubhouse. I have Comrade Tawfiq and Ustaz Abani, and they will be with me in conversation with you. Tawfiq, Abani, anytime you guys want to ask question to Doctor, please open your mic and ask the question, because we want to make it evaluation to the last year and what are we expecting in 2020, 2023. So go ahead, Dr. Peter Ajak. You can make comment on that video.
Exactly. That is actually how he thinks. Right? This is the president, right? This is the president. He believes that he has nothing that he can do, and that he let the people fight, and whoever ran away cannot say I'm a man anymore, right? So if you see, his performance is lacking. He's not actually performing well, right? So you see that there is violence. That is one. You see that tribalism is all over the place, everywhere, even within the same tribes, even with big tribes like Dinka and Nuer, inside this tribe, you know, exactly. Like he said last time that in Upper Nile, those of you who are fighting in Upper Nile, these are our people, but I'm not. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Why? Because he believes power is there to protect him. He believed the army, the role of the army is to protect him as a person, is to protect his family, is to allow him to be able to rule the country, to extract resources. That is what he sees. He doesn't see power as something that is used to improve the living situation of the people, right? He doesn't think it in that way. And this is why you see, by the way, with the mismanagement that is going on in the country, with the corruption that is happening, when you look at the economic indicators, how the GDP has shrunk since the time we got our independence, right? Why? Because of mismanagement. If you look at the economy, when we got our independence, we were the richest per capita country in the East Africa region. Now we are among the poorest. We are actually now poorer than Uganda in GDP per capita. We have become the poorest. This is under his leadership, right? If you look politically with the civil war, that just keeping the SPLM united, right? It's keeping the SPLM united. And all that required was just a fair play in how people access power. Because power does not belong to one individual, it belongs to the society. Riek Machar, Dr. Riek, he has a right to imagine himself becoming president of South Sudan, right? He's right. The same thing with Pagana Mum. He has a right, if he believes, he can become president of South Sudan. The same thing with Mama Rebecca last time, those who wanted to contest. The same thing with Lama Akol. If he believes he can be president of South Sudan, they right beto. Okay? No one can take it away from him. So what matters now is the procedures, so the procedures are fair. In President Kiir's mind, he wanted to ensure that the game was rigged to favor him so that he keeps the power. So he does not see it as belonging to the people, and therefore the people have the right. No, he sees it as belonging to himself. And therefore, he sees the tools of the state, like the army, the police, the national security, as his personal force, meant to protect him, and his stay in power. This is why he said, "Wana bishub yuntum beji min wen," because he will use the force, as he said, the army and the police to protect himself. And then he will see where you will come from, because he's not going to do fair and free elections. Because in SPLM, how did the war start? He wants to be the one to appoint 5% of the delegates. And by the way, delegates are the one that elect the chairman. So if you're already appointing the delegates, right, and you expect the election to be free and fair, right? And then simultaneously, he wants the voting to be through the show of hand so that he can see who is against him, okay? That is what he wants. And he wanted an SPLM where he can appoint everybody. The SPLM that he has now, the one that they did a meeting a few weeks ago. That is the SPLM he wanted. SPLM that he can bring in Tutkeo, if you want to bring in Tutkeo, even if Tutkeo was not a member of the SPLM, that he can bring in anyone he wants, Tor Dengma Wien, or whoever, he can bring all these people as that he wants. Not that people that were actually in the SPLM, that built the SPLM and made the SPLM to become what it is. So in his mind, all the tools of the struggle that the people of South Sudan built with their blood and their sweat and their tears, the army, the police, the central bank, all of these belongs to him. Therefore, the resources are his. He wants, like the way what's happening now in Juba, all the resources are controlled by the presidency. No one get paid without the president authorizing. So the resources are his now to do as he wants, right? And he now give it to his businessmen, middlemen, some of these corrupt people doing very fake projects. And then the money comes back to him, and then he uses it now as donation. So instead to use it as a budget belonging to the people, he sees it as something belonging to him, all right? Now, all of us are human beings. If you have a government like that, where everything belongs to an individual, right? An individual just like any one of us. Yes, he was a deputy chairman to Dr. John, can member with High Command, Zaman al-Harab. Lekin, he was in Harab, Zayizol, guide for Harab. By the way, he's not even wounded. Maybe he fell during the thing. There are some people who has lost legs, right? Who have lost parts of the body has been cut off. Let's not even mention the people who are dead, 2 million that has died. So what gives one individual the right to believe that all that belong to him? Now, those around him that are looking at it, they will say, why him? It can also be me. And the minute people say that, how can there not be power struggle? First, the guy who is in power is not performing, right? He's not doing the job right? It's not like someone said the other day, when people are clapping and they're smiling.
Pamke.
It's not because the president has said anything actually that makes sense. right? It's because when they clap, they are seen. There are now with our security inside there, they're observing. And those who are clapping loudest, now they are seen as the most loyal. This is the Khartoum regime ideology. Nimeri used to do this, by the way, and the same thing with al-Bashir. And now, with those of Tut around the president, those of Todeng Mawin, he has adopted. So people come, they kneel before him, they worship him. He has lost touch with reality. So you see people clapping, and you think he has said something very smart. So you will say, this is when you will hear things like, oh yeah, and this fighting in Upper Nile, there is nothing I can do about it. And then later on, he will realize that this thing was not even actually well thought out, right? So by default, you will have power struggle. Power struggle will be inevitable. So people are not fighting because they hate the president or they don't want
to continue, Dr. Bair. Just let me ask you a tip question. On which basis Dr. John Garang chosen him to be his deputy? And by then, in Rumbek meeting of the conciliation, he was accusing Dr. John Garang of corruption, of mismanagement. So please, can you just, what's going on today before I ask you another question?
Look, let us be very honest.
Yeah.
Dr. John did not pick President Salva because he was loyal. Those of us in the SPLM, we know. There are some things that we are not airing out that we all know, right? The relations between them has been very rocky for some time. How many times has he complained about it? President Salva, right? Dr. John chose him for a simple reason, to avoid the SPLM from being destroyed. That was it, right? Because he had initially tried to remove him. And that was very difficult because he realized that, and then he wanted to break away. And it was very clear that he was going to break away. Why was it very clear? Because he was already by then talking with Khartoum, right? And he has built a relationship with them. So everybody knew that if you do not do something to calm him down and his supporters, right? Because just like our politics today, my brother, politics of South Sudan has always revolved around two big vices. The first is tribalism, okay? Tribalism has always been our major problem. And second, regionalism, particularly in two regions, Equatoria and Bair Ajak. So during the war and during the time when they start having issues, right, in the 1990s, because now when the defection of Riek happened, tribalism was used. Tribalism was the tool because Riek is a Nuer and Garang is a Dinka. But then now when the relationship with Salva was rocky, tribalism was no longer sufficient because both Garang and Salva are Dinka. So what was used? Regionalism, Bair Ajak. So Salva was using that, right? And mobilizing a lot of very loyal commanders and soldiers of Bair Ajak on the ground that he was being targeted. And it did not make any sense because the accusation was Garang was trying to bring Nial Deng Nial. Well, Nial is not from anywhere else. He's from Bair Ajak, just like Salva Kiir. But he was basically threatened by that. And his mind, he was going to challenge Garang militarily, and he made the preparation. But we are also grateful to him because at the last minute, he listened to reason. Because if he had done that, there would be no South Sudan today. Right? But the tension did not die. Right? They averted the crisis, but the crisis was still there. Even in the meetings, if you see the tension between him and Garang, it was already there. Right? And suspicions were there. So Garang wanted to calm that because Garang was about to deal with the militiat. And these militiat, especially militiat beta Polino Matip. So he wanted to resolve this tension. And that's why he made sure he appointed him as vice. And he denied that he wanted to remove him. But everybody knew that there was no trust between them. So what Garang was doing was to prevent another war within, and Garang by then He knew this man has been talking with Sudan intelligence. He was now going to Khartoum, right? And so it was a very difficult time. But Garang gave his life, basically. He was saying, instead of me holding on to power, because Salva was basically this, and this is how you see the logic of how the President Salva has ruled since he took over 2005. In his mind, it's not as if the power was given to him. It's as if he took it by force, right? Like in his head.
Dr. Bair, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And first, I want to say my greeting to you, Dr. Bair, my greeting to Sister Bani, and my greeting to Comrade Edward, and the audience and the members of South Sudan Political Club. I think the topic is good, and it's a good conversation. This is how I call it. It's a conversation and not a debate. And so I have one question, but it has two parts, so we can call it two questions. And the first section to my question, it's asked, would an orderly political transition be possible in South Sudan without dissolving the SPLM-SPLA pecking order first? And the second part says, and will the people of South Sudan call a transition where General Kual Manyang becomes a president instead of Vice President James Wani Iga? And thank you.
Exactly, right? So, look, to cut to the chase, this is where the problem is. Will the president ensure that the SPLM hierarchy is followed as it is specified in the peace agreement, right? Because what we have now in the country is the peace agreement. And the peace agreement say if something happened to the IG, the president, then his party, which is the SPLM IG, will then nominate someone. Right now, both in the hierarchy of the party and the hierarchy of the government, that person will be the Honorable, His Excellency Vice President James Wani Iga. And that will be following the process that was followed. But as I was saying to you before, President did not see what happened in New Site in 2005 as he was given by the people. In his mind, he has threatened it. He has taken it over through force. And this is why he sees it belonging to him. Okay? And this is why, by the way, he's very lip tight on what will happen should something happen to him. There is no one single day that he has made it publicly, the way John Garang did, that the next leader will be James Wani Iga. Should something happen to me, you Junubin, this is the person that should take over. This would be the right thing for him to do, right? It doesn't matter even if he's sick. Whether he's not sick or not, it doesn't matter. But it would be the right thing for him to say, should something happen, the next person to take over will be James Wani Iga. But he's not doing that. And what you see happening is he's making deal with the militiat. Like, for example, national security is essentially a personal military that belonged to him under his key general called Kur. And then you have, at the same time, simultaneously, all these militiat that you see in Upper Nile, in Jonglei, in Upper Nile State, and in Unity State. These are militiat, and they're headed by individuals that see these militiat belonging to them. The same way that you see president believing that this power and this force belong to him. So in that scenario, should something happen to him, the question is, will there be a cohesive military presence to ensure that there is an orderly transition within the SPLM? And this is a very basic question. The basic question actually is this. Say we wake up tomorrow and the president is no longer there. Will Akol Kur or Santino Dengwal, Chief of Defense Forces, or Walmaroli, will they take over power? That is the question.
respond to a member down there. I think they did not understood your statement. CPA or Charles, what Dr. Peter said, he didn't say that Dr. Garang wanted James Wanaiga to be the vice president. No, he's saying Salva Kiir is not specific or has not publicly made it as what Dr. Garang said, that Salva Kiir will be the next president or the vice president. This is what Dr. Bair is saying. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
So,
I think Tawfiq, don't worry about. I think Charles Tahir, I don't know if you did not get it right. So Dr. Peter Bair was clear. Continue, Doctor. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So that is the question, because the president, what Garang did in 2005 in Rumbek, he raised Salva hands and he said, Junubin, this is your leader. Should any eventuality happen, this is your leader. So it was very clear. So when Garang died and the people converged in Yei, although there were some other people who were interested in the leadership, it was easy for consensus to develop around Salva. And if Garang had not done that, with the way Salva had behaved in Yei in 2004, the way he was threatening the movement, we may not have the CPA to celebrate today. And it's also because the leaders, those of Kwal Manyang and the Garang inner circle, those of Bair Ajak, they were not as power hungry as our president has become. The president has become so power hungry that he does not see the interest of the nation. He only sees his own interests. Because otherwise, how do you debate with the reality? He is sick, and is very visible, right? Like when Ruto came, President Ruto, head of state of another country, he could not walk with Ruto to inspect the guard of honor.
Yes, and I have the video too.
Okay. That you don't need anything else. That by itself tells you that he's not in good health, right? And by the way, not addressing this issue is dangerous for the nation. Why is it dangerous for the nation? Because under President Salva, he has allowed all these regional countries to have interests and deep interest in our government and in our country. And he has allowed them to bring their spies into the center of power. Spies of foreign countries. Countries that they have their own agendas. Not agendas of South Sudan, but their own agendas. You notice those in Juba, sometimes they are quick to accuse us as being the one that are sellout.
Yes.
But the reality is they are the biggest sellout. So everybody is observing the behavior of the president, including the foreign spies, and they're reporting to their masters what they are seeing on a daily basis. And some of these people are better prepared with some of the scenarios. And the way the president is behaving, and if Junubin allow him to continue that way, this is why, by the way, today, Nina lazim yakelam ma Junubin, al-Motanin bita Junuba Sudan. Indum hak, de beled bito, de akuma bito. De ma beled bita Salva Kiir, Barau, Wariag Machar. We cannot leave the country to the leaders to do as they wish. It's not their countries alone. It's also our country. So you have a leader who is visibly weak. We don't know, even after all these incidents that has happened, there is no single time that somebody from the presidency has come to tell us what is happening. You only hear rumors, like what Awu Deng Achwil's, the letter that she wrote, and Salva Matok with the video that he's put out. But there is nothing official that has come out from the presidency, either to assure us, Junubin, do not be alarmed. Here is the medical result. This is what the doctor is saying. Your president is okay. But we know that is not the case. Because if that was the case, they would have done it. That is not the case. So the question is how bad the situation is. Is it a situation that can wait, or is it something that may happen? And let me tell you what is happening. Foreign governments are already planning. They are planning on what will happen next. And they're not looking too far. They're looking within the circles around the president. Right? Like I told you before, president in his mind has thought of government as belonging to him as individual. But when you criticize him, so for example, I heard that he said in some place, because I had criticized him, he said, I am a serious danger to the Republic of South Sudan. So in his mind, he is the Republic of South Sudan. Right?
Right.
Because I'm a danger to him, because I expose, the shortcoming of his regime, as any patriotic citizen should do. So in his mind, I am very bad. So in his head, government belong to him. Now, so when you have that, but the problem is this: you cannot divide yourselves to be the president, chief of the army, head of the Tiger, director general of national security, head of the MI. My brother, you have to find other people. Okay? And that is why Dr. John had no other choice but to find him and use him as the director of military intelligence. He was there for so long, he built his own power to the extent that now he was ready and willing to overthrow John Garang. So, but now he's the president, and he cannot be president. So he has to find someone who will be the chief of staff, someone to be the director of national security, someone to be IGP, someone to be head of Tiger. Well, those people are also individuals, and they're human beings. Huh? And they see the boss is dying. And they have been made by the boss to do bad things. So say, for example, if you're a Kolokur now, and you see what is happening, are you happy? The guy who made you to do all these bad things is about to die. What will happen when he dies? Do you let Waniga take over? But what if Waniga give you to ICC or hybrid court? Or, so you see the dilemma. But then again, if you wait until the boss die, then the rest of the other warlords in the country, they can force you. They can come together and say, we must follow the party hierarchy. And Waniga take over. And Waniga take over, where do you go? Okay? So, and let's say you are a foreign government, like Museveni. Museveni has been made to believe that he's the Lord of South Sudan. So if you see his son, Mahuzi, when he tweets, he's called our president, Salva Kiir, his general. And our government did not even say anything about it. The other time, he threatened to invade Nairobi and capture it within 2 weeks, and have a road, the whole area of Westland be called as Kololo, the way that we have a Kololo road in South Sudan. Right? So in his mind, he sees this as his empire. When Salva Kiir was almost overthrown by Riek Machar in 2013, what happened? They ran to Museveni. And Museveni brought in, and they probably told him, "You are the boss, my big boss, my friend, you come." Museveni came and he saved them. So Muhoozi always talking about it. So you see this as belonging to him. Well, now he has just seen that the guy that he has supported is not well. And this guy may be dying. Do you think he's just going to wait and wake up like the rest of Junubin? Huh? And he will just wait like the way Junubin and those in the SPLM are waiting. Maybe you wait and Salva Kiir will die, and then they will see what will happen. You think this is what he's going to do? With all the money that he receives, all the bribe that he received from Juba? Okay. What about Tutkel and his bosses in Khartoum? Okay. Those in Khartoum, they are already facing serious headache. People in Sudan are still rejecting. But they signed something, and it looks like they may be able to do something. And they will form some government that will be headed by a civilian, likely to restore their relations with the West and with the African Union and with many places. But we know who is in charge in Juba, right? It's Khartoum and those around him. NSS, we can say, yes, a Kolkur built it, but we can just as well say Salagosh built it, right? He was Juba for a few years, and we know what he was doing.
And even I was about to ask you about the undercover activities.
Yes, exactly. We'll get into it. So now, those people, do you think they're going to wait until Salva Kiir dies before they plan? When they know some of the people that they back, if they lose power, right, then the entire interest in our country is gone. So, to be honest with you, my brother, we are in the most dangerous situation we have ever been in the history of our country. Because we have a president who is addicted to power, who cannot imagine himself alive unless he dies in power, right? He will go directly from the presidency to the grave. And I think there was a rumor that, there is something he said, like, this country, when I leave it, I'll leave it like, when you eat meat from, a nice chunk of meat with a bone on it, then you finish all the meat and you just leave the bone. So that is, I think it said something like that in Dinka. Yes. And with this scenario, you could get to that, right? It's very, very, very possible. It's very, very, very plausible. So, Junubin citizen, you can no longer continue to ignore this and leave it to a few of us to be the one talking about it. This is a serious challenge, So what I want us to talk about now are the scenarios. What is going to happen in 2013? And we go to 2023. Yes. Because no one is waiting, right? The president thinks that people are going to wait for the election. No one is going to wait for an election. And there are a number of events and activities that are going to happen that are going to unleash, because the way our president has managed the country and the way that he made power to be seen in the mind of Junubin as something that belonged to you, right? Everyone wants it. It's not just about who is best placed to do it, but everyone wants it, because the person who is in it is not performing. He's just simply getting rich with his family and intimidating the rest of the people. So those who want it peacefully are intimidated. So, and the people who are encouraged and who are developed to grow are those who want it violently. Like Yao Yao now has risen from unknown to become a member of political bureau of the SPLM. And there are people who have been in the SPLM for the 21 years of struggle and since the CPA, and they are nowhere close to how far Yao Yao has reached. Right? So it shows what the system rewards. System then does not reward nonviolence. So if you are nonviolent like Peter Biar, like Kwelagwer, you go to prison. Or you are assassinated by unknown gunmen like Isaiah Abraham. Or you are kidnapped from a foreign country like Dong Samuel and you die. You have to be violent like Yao Yao, then you can rise. You have to be violent like Hussein Al-Baghi Ayi, then you come from nowhere, you become vice president. That is how you rise. So with that kind of incentive, and with the global crisis, economic crisis that we face, and with the war in Ukraine, what the war in Ukraine has done is made the access and availability of arms so easy, because so many arms are flowing there. And all you just need to do is have good connections in Ukraine. I've been to Ukraine myself, so I'm talking from something that I know. And yes, it's a European country, but it's a decently corrupt country as well. So you can get arms, but all kinds of arms. And Juba is also broke, right? So it's not like the most strongest government. So if you like, people see all this deployment of Tiger in Juba, and they think the government is so strong and the government has weapons. No, this government is so weak. They cannot sustain a war, leave alone the one of 2013. Something like what happened in 2016, you can march to Juba. Anyone can march to Juba, to be honest with you. You have a force now big enough to be like 3,000. Look, they have not paid the soldiers. And the soldiers have seen what happened to your comrades that die in battle. And even those who are relatives of the president, they have seen that they cannot rely on this government. So no one want to risk themselves. No one is going to die. So then those who are all in Juba, who see everything. By the way, if you want to read about this, there is a very nice book that was written by a guy called Philip Rusla. He talks about this. There is the logics of civil war, how the civil war developed, when the elites that have joint access to instruments of violence, right? And with complexities surrounding succession politics. So, and by the way, without either by design or the president not realizing or thinks he can just use money to play all these militias, he has allowed the whole country to turn into a militia, tribal militias. So the question is really going to be, if the president does not begin to lead, to be ahead of this process and begin really exiting, raise the hand of James Waniga or whoever he wants to be the next leader, so that there is clarity around it and people can debate it, then anyone that has ability to be able to take power is going to begin designing how to do exactly that, right? And all these militias are there. So it's going to be what kind of grouping of these militias can come together, and whether that is something that is stable, that can provide stability, because that is the angle from which US or some of the Western countries are going to look at things. It's not going to be from the angle of legitimacy, because Salva Kiir is not legitimate in their eyes. In fact, after the extension of the government, the legitimacy will be completely withdrawn. I don't think US is going to acknowledge the legitimacy of Salva Kiir regime after February, right? And we are going to make sure that the world sees Salva Kiir regime for what it is, illegitimate regime that is there because of violence. And we are going to put pressure on elements within that regime through sanctions and through other tools, right? So those things are going to happen. So now this is illegitimate regime. So obviously, if it is overthrown, it's not a big deal. It's not like you have overthrown an elected government, right? Like you can literally, anyone can overthrow it. And as long as you can convince people reasonably well that you can provide some stability, yeah, you can be the next leader. And everybody in Juba understands this. And everyone in Juba has militias. Everyone in Juba has money because of the corruption. So all you need now, boom, right connections in Ukraine, right money, anything is possible. So 2023 is going to be very chaotic. And some of the militias within Juba are going to, because the president is so vulnerable now. So if you're getting paid, if you're a militia leader and you're getting paid 5 million, right, to be loyal to Salva Kiir, you know what you're going to do? You're going to want to be paid 7 million, because Salva Kiir now is much more vulnerable and they need you more than before. So there's going to be more demand on his money. So he's going to be more corrupt next year, right? So there will be more deals, shady contracts, selling of oil and other natural resources in advance, and all of those things. My brother, let me run to get my charger. My thing is about to power off.
Yeah, bring your charger.
Yeah.
Yes. Abani, Tawfiq, anyone of you want to say something? Open your
Yes,
mic.
let Sister Abani go first because she hasn't said anything.
No, thank you. Thank you, Brother Tawfiq. And Happy New Year to you and to my brother Edward and Dr. Bair and all our listeners and viewers. in YouTube, the Voice of the People and South Sudan Political Club. Happy New Year to all the people of South Sudan, all over the world. We are glad that Dr. Peter Biar always accept our invitation to come and join us and discuss the issues, political issues in our country. And he has said it clearly earlier that the power belongs to the people, not to Salva Kiir, because we, the people of South Sudan, we have become victims of all the power struggle that has happened in our country. All our aspirations were destroyed by the regime. As he said, Kiir see himself as he's the only, the power belongs to him. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the first and the last in the country, regardless of his leadership, the cruelty, inhumane way of life that the people are suffering in South Sudan. Since 2013, our people and refugee camps, we have lost a lot of people, and they don't have salaries. They have been displaced. The suffering is so huge. And without any common sense from our president, he still want to cling to power. I was wondering, Dr. Peter Biar, why is it Kiir want us to live in this dilemma? As you said earlier, he doesn't want to announce who would be his next successor. Why does he want to cling into the power or wants to surprise the people of South Sudan? Is it because, like what he said earlier, that he will leave, قال هيخلي لما يطلع هيخلي البلد أفن, كويس? Nobody will smell it. Does it mean that after him there will be a fight, serious fight, that we will kill ourselves until the last man is done, or what is he planning to do? So thank you, Edward. I don't want to say so much. I'll give this chance to our brother Taufik while Dr. Biar
no, Dr. Biar actually is here. I think he can make comment on actually any question before giving introduction to Taufik. And there is video I want to play to Dr. Biar, and also I want to read something here, to quote something for him. Actually play the video so we can continue the conversation. So can you make comment, Dr. Biar, on the comment of Abani and her question? Thank you.
My brother, it's a very legitimate question, and I wonder just like you, because if you see, he claims that he's a nationalist, but at the same time, when you see his action, they lacked that sense of nationalism, because he knows in his heart that he has failed. He's failed as a leader. There is no doubt about it. He knows. And even when he said that he accepted the nomination and he said, I have never failed you before, you could tell that in his voice that he realized that he was not genuine. And it did not come out as genuine, because let's be honest, he has been anything but a failure, right? And it's a sad thing, by the way, because we wanted our first president to be someone that will go down in history books with Suma Quays. Lekin, his greed for power has undermined any sense of that form of nationalism. So even if he pretends, like he pretends there, it's like what Paul said in the book of Acts, when that Herod, that king that was destroyed by the angels immediately, he was just surrounded by flatterers, people that just flatter him. And he says all these things. And then he messed with the Lord and he was destroyed, So I feel like our president is now surrounded by flatterers, and it's because of his nature. because he doesn't like to be told the truth. Everyone that has known him can tell you the easiest way that you will have problem with the president Salva is not being told the truth. And I can tell you, for example, even Foreign Minister Maigai, he was just here for US Africa Summit. And he was told some very serious messages, right, by the American government so that he can go and give them to the president. I am very sure there is no way Maiga has communicated those to Salva. No way. There's no way. Because he doesn't want to have problem with Salva. You don't give him bad news. Just come and pretend everything is great. It's like the Iraqi information minister, the one of Saddam Hussein.
Yes, Sahaf.
Ah, yes. He was saying, what American? They're nowhere. Until he was captured. That is the way it is with this kind of dictators. So I don't know, but I think the way he has planned it in his mind is that he wants to die in power. Now let's imagine that scenario. Let's say he dies in power today.
Today, yes. What will happen?
And he has not prepared anyone to take over power. First of all, who is going to find out? The first people that will find out around him are people of Bolwek, Lualwek, the Tiger people. This will be the first people to know what has happened. Lualwek will then decide whether to inform the family or not. It depends what his game is. Akolkur will probably find out within the next 10 to 15 minutes of that happening. And then the question is, what measures are they going to take? And then the CDF may find out maybe within half an hour. Then the rest of the security forces will find out. So the question is, if there is cohesion among these generals, the reality is many of them, they do not see eye to one another. And why that is the case? Because that's how our president has been able to rule. That is the only way he knows how to rule power, is by creating rivalry, creating suspicions, sowing seeds of divisions so that he can manipulate all the people. That is what he has been doing. So you see, the head of Tiger does not like the head of national security. And the head of police does not like the head of the army. So no one get along with anyone. So they don't get along. So each one of these people may have his own scenarios. So Akolku now and his Amara with his key generals and his staff, they can sit and then they have their scenario. Bolwek has his own scenario. Dengwell, at least that one is not very ambitious himself. And he'd probably be the only one that would want some orderly transition, I think. But the rest of the people, they have a lot they are afraid of. You just need to read Abusanjo report.
Yes.
And then now there is that report that we mentioned, and there are many more that are likely to come out. And when they come, it's difficult to pretend that these people can be leaders. So then what will happen? So each one of them may try to take power. Now, anything that skips Wani Iga will make the whole SPLM system irrelevant, right? Unless the power goes to Wani Iga, otherwise there's nothing you call SPLM, because that is the hierarchy. But let's say the SPLM surprise us, and they do the Crown Hotel Taban scenario. What is the Crown Hotel Taban scenario? It was when Lado Gore was passed, right? He was the deputy
chairman.
And Riek was the one that has gone it was out of Juba. So they wanted to put someone interim. The most senior was the deputy chair. After that was the secretary general. Taban was just a chief negotiator for SPLM-IO, and he was just a member of political bureau. But now when they met, they said, hey, anyone can nominate anyone. And all of a sudden, Taban was the one that was nominated, and he became the chairman. So let's say political bureau could meet tomorrow. Waniga is there. Awena Akut is there, Kwalmanyang is there. But let's say someone from the security forces control.
Yes.
Then you can have very funny scenarios like what happened in some of the West African countries when you have a son that was a military leader, all of a sudden become a member of political bureau, and all of a sudden become the president.
Take example to what happened to Chad, the president.
Someone that like Chad.
Chad, yes.
But that one will be a full coup. But I'm talking about a scenario within SPLM where somebody managed to pressure all the people in the SPLM or bribe them, and they said, we have nominated so and so and is a member of the SPLM, even though that person is a general. They can say tomorrow they have nominated a Kolkur to be the interim chairman of SPLM. If he's the one that is controlling the security in Juba and pressuring these people, then how will the rest of Junuba Sudan react to that? How would the Equatorial community react to that? Waniga has been patient there, is the right guy there. And by the way, for the rest of Junubin, they know he's not someone that is going to cling on to power for another 20 years like Salva Kiir. So Waniga may be there for a few years. Maybe he would be the right person that can get the country toward elections, right? But can the SPLM make the right decision? Can the security forces allow them to make decision? What about Riek Machar? Riek Machar is right there in Juba, right? And he has his forces. And he has the White Army who are now hanging out in Pibor. They're now in Pibor, yes, Pibor administrative area. Okay? Greater Pibor administrative area. They are there doing what? They are there creating havoc because they are revenging what has been done to them by Murle. They can summon them anytime. And he can take over Juba. Right? Then there are other scenarios within Dinka. Right? So my point is, unless the president radically do something soon and make it known to the people of South Sudan what are the succession mechanisms, we are all at risk. But I mean, what is happening with the regional leaders and what they are planning, and with some of them control the militias of Junuba Sudan.
Let me ask you also a question, also another scenario. What about the son of the president, the one head of the, I think, is it head of management in his office?
He's the deputy director for his office.
Also, I want you to make a comment. Is it possible for him actually to be a successor, and also the head of Tiger Division, because this Tiger Division is one of very strong army in South Sudan, and they control everything. So, what do you think also?
Based on what I've heard, right? Yes.
There
is a feeling that that's what the president would want, and that would be consistent with his logic, the way he sees government as belonging to him, right? And the SPLM as belonging to him, the way he sees South Sudan as him. So then, if he's not there, that automatically means it is his son, right? And that is the way Museveni is thinking in Uganda, and Museveni is the one that is controlling him in Juba, right? But the problem is, right at the moment, Salva Kiir has two sons, and none of them has built enough power to be able to take over. Thiek which is the one that is being talked about the most.
Yes.
Right now, he can just be eaten alive by the head of the tiger or by a Kolokur.
Like Peter.
No, I'm telling you, they. And even the old guys in the SPLM, they were like, huh? When did this thing become a monarchy? They cannot tell him now because he's there and he's alive and he's controlled the resources, but he's dead. He's gone. So I don't think that scenario is realistic. People talk about it, but I don't think. Now, Rural Marolit, the head of Tiger. Now, that is someone actually who is very serious, right? He's a general, he's young, he's very charismatic, he's someone that has a lot of power in his hand right now. He's a man to watch. And especially if he can make alliances. This is the thing with Juba. You can make allies. So, and he will be the first person to find out if the president is dead, should the president die, right? And then he can make allies with somebody else. And then they form like a military something. He has good chances, right? Because yes, he's mentioned in Abusanjo report of 2013, but that was a crazy time when a lot of people lost their mind, and there was that spirit of war and violence and anger. So he's mentioned there, but since then, he's not particularly mentioned as violating any human rights, right? He's not mentioned as someone, who is suppressing political freedoms, because he has nothing to do with that. He just deals with protecting the president. So he's there. But the thing is, I know that he doesn't see eye to eye with Kolkur. And Kolkur also has his power base. And then what will you do? So Kolkur may insist. So it will be a question of, can they make a deal, or will they like, if not me, I'll mess it up, or if not you, then you mess it up, and that kind of thing. But there is a very important point that I want to raise, my brother, that you mentioned this. And that is the safety of the president, right? The safety of the president. I am concerned about it. And here is the reason why I'm concerned. We have now seen videos where it appears that the president is visibly sick.
Yes.
So sick to the extent that it is shocking. Okay? So sick to the extent that it is shocking. So, suppose we wake up tomorrow and we hear that the president is dead.
Everybody will run, like the way he said.
But the thing is, will anyone be surprised?
No, they will run away. He said in the interview with Jeff,
Yeah.
If when people wake up and he dead, everybody will start running. Go
Yes,
ahead.
but the thing is, but will anyone be surprised? So the question is, are people in Juba prepared to be running? Right? So maybe people in Juba are prepared to be running. But the thing is, with the way that people see is difficult, standing, you cannot walk.
Yes.
If you really hear tomorrow that Salva Kiir has died last night, you will not be shocked that
You
much.
will not be shocked, right?
Exactly. That actually brings danger to his life. Right?
Right.
Yes, he's sick, but we don't know how sick it is. Maybe he has another 10 years to live. Maybe another, like the Pope, Benedict XVI. He resigned in 2013 because he said by then he was too old and he was no longer able to do his job. But he lived for another 9 years. Right? He just died today. Right? Almost 10 years, actually. But if he had died, let's say the day after he had said that, none of us would have been surprised either. But maybe that death might not have been a natural death. So I'm saying now, with the scenarios that are unfolding, it exposes the president to potential schemes. And it's important for his security to pay attention, right? Like they cannot be caught unaware. Again, all these videos have exposed the health of the president. And now, if there are people looking for power that are surrounding him, like the way he's surrounded now by the spies of Khartoum, the spies of Uganda, anything can happen based on the plans of those countries. And then those foreign countries, and some of these generals themselves, does the president truly trust them? If Garang could not trust Salva himself, and if Salva could not trust Garang, can Salva really trust anyone? And if you are some of these generals who have committed so many human rights violations, and you are removed tomorrow, or Salva dies and you are no longer in power, then what happens to you? What happened to the relatives of the people that you have suppressed? Will they come up to you? These are the scenarios. So all of these, they put extra risk to the life of the president. And this is why I was saying, we cannot pretend as if nothing has happened. In fact, that will be dangerous to do that. And what I want Junubin to understand is that this is the moment now to begin publicly talking about the scenarios for leadership transition. And we start building consensus. In my opinion, February is coming, and that is the ideal time. There is no need for the president to continue anymore. And if he has a shred of nationalism left in his heart, this will be the time for him to show it. Yes, we know election cannot happen in February because he has not prepared for elections. But let him give it over to Waniga. Let Wani implement the roadmap. You still be SPLM. And if you don't want Wani to be the candidate, SPLM will have a time to nominate another candidate if they want to pass it on to another generation, because they're now talking about a generational transition. They will have a chance. But President Salva has to begin leaving in February. And the visit of the Pope is a big opportunity. Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the head of the Presbyterian Church are coming, right? They're coming to Juba on February 3rd. This is an opportunity to get the president to prepare himself to hand over on the 20th of February. This is the last time, the last day of his term. If he does that, Junubin will still respect him. He thinks that people don't respect him. People respect him. People respect that he has tried. People have respect his contribution. But they would respect even more if he realized now that the time for him has come. And he prepared to go and allow the people of South Sudan to move forward. So this is the time now. We have to begin building consensus. Not that Wani Iga will be a great leader, but at least he's the person there right now. We can continue believing that there is agreement. Then the other scenario, and that is other scenario is a complete change, which is also possible, but which will also could be violent and could be very rocky for the country.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I want to play 2 videos. Then I will have question, and after that, Tawfiq, because I have many videos, I want to play them for you so you can make a comment on them. Just let me play this video. Just a second.
Here, there is war. There is war in Eastern Nuer, in Jokau, and there is war in Northern Upper Nile, in the Chuluk Kingdom areas. Who are fighting there? Our own brothers and sisters. And I cannot stop them. Building a sustainable peace in our country is our mission. And I would like also to inform you that war will never benefit us. Instead, it destroys what we have. Now, for those who went to Upper Nile, they saw what Upper Nile looks like, especially Malakal. And that was the town I rebelled from. If I was to be in Malakal today and I want to rebel, I cannot drive my car through the way that I went, because Malakal buga mafi kulu. And I heard the CDF talking yesterday about his experience, that he went to Northern Upper Nile in 1985. He praised the people and how he got the area.
I think you got the part I want you. I don't want you to make the comment now. I want to play the another video. There is a question here. I want you, Dr. Biar, to note it down. There is a question from one of our sisters in Clubhouse. Her name is Asla, ISLA, and she asking. So my question is: do you think Uncle Wani will be the savior for all of us? That I think is a very important question, but you will answer that question later on. Let me play the second video I want to play. Then there is something I read for you, and after that you will. I want Kwad Manyang, yes, yeah. I want you to listen to this.
General Dr. Salva Kiir Mayardit, our people do value the efforts you exerted in faring the country up to the level we are in. Through the challenges, right away from the death of our leader, Dr. John Garang de Mabior, that was the most difficult part. Assignment given to you, left to you, of the National Congress and others thought that the CPA was going to die. But you were patient enough. All the temptations that were made and efforts exerted made by the National Congress and other parties to derail the CPA.
General Doctor, is it clear for you, Doctor?
You were patient
Yes.
enough
Okay.
and tactful enough to move your country forward, your people forward, until we reached the referendum that made South Sudan to be independent. Definitely, these are things our people, this is why our people keep on supporting the SPLM, in spite of the challenges that happened 2013, 2016, and still some of our people are still in the business, still fighting for an unknown reason. Our people are gathered here and they are affirming you, confirming you to continue being the leader of this country until the end of your life.
I think, Dr. Biar, this is whereby I want actually you to make comment on 2 points. The first one, President saying he cannot stop the war in Upper Nile. And actually, you talk about it. The White Army, they were revenging in Chololand the last 2 weeks. And also now they are revenging in Murule land. And also there is chaos in the Equatorial region. The second point, he has been nominated again to be the president actually after 3 years, if there is election. It's after 3 years because we are going for another transitional 24 months. Then I think it's 3 years almost. But before you come in, Dr. Peter Biara, I want to read for you and to the audience, those are listening to us in Clubhouse and those are watching from YouTube and also YouTube. Africa Organized Crime Index 2021. South Sudan. What I want to read is the part of South Sudan. Criminality score 9 of 54 African countries. That is 9 countries. 3 of those 9 countries are East African countries. I don't care about the other 2, but I need to just read comments in regard to our situation in South Sudan. And now the same leader is failing actually to manage the country. Kwal Manyang is saying he will be the president for life. So we want you also. And also, I want to remind you, you talk about the generation exit. So I don't know, that means Peter Biari will also be in struggle for the next 50 years until Salva Kiir dies. Let me tell you that. Yeah, I'm just joking. Actually, the criminal markets is the score is 5.3. The human trafficking, the score is 8.50. The human smuggling is 5.50. The arms trafficking is 8. Flora crimes, I don't know what is that, but you make flora crime. I don't know what is that. Which type of crime is that? I think you are familiar with that. Is 7.50. The FUNA crimes is 7. The score is 7. Non-renewal resources crime is 8. Heroin trade is 2. Cocaine trade is 1.50. South Sudan. Cannabis trade is 4. The score is 4. Synthetic drugs trade is 1%. Criminal actors, mafia style groups, 4.50. And actually, last week we've been talking about the mafia state in South Sudan and the rules, and South Sudan under the rule of the generals and criminals. Criminal networks is 8, which is very high score, and you talk about it. State embedded actors is 9. Foreign actors is 8. The last point score I want to read for you. Political leadership and governance is 2. The score is 2. Government transparency and accountability is 1. Internal cooperation is 2. National policies and laws is 3. Judicial system and detention 2. Law enforcement 2. Territorial integrity 1.50. Anti-money laundering 1.50. Economic regulatory capacity is 2.50. Victims and witness report is 1. Prevention is 1.50. Non-state actors is 2%. Dr. Bair, you are welcome, and the floor is yours, my brother.
Thank you, brother. And it's very sad to hear all of those statistics that are absolutely the worst. And it goes to show what I was telling you before, which is the logic of our government, and it is now under the leadership of President Salva Kiir. He believes the government is not there to help the people. That is why he says he cannot intervene in Upper Nile. Otherwise, what would you think to be the objective of the state? Why do we have the army? Why do we have the police, the national security, and the security forces in the country, if not to protect the life and properties of people of South Sudan? So clearly, that shows that the government has other priorities. And those other priorities is to protect himself in power, to protect his access to resources, both legally and illegally, through extraction of resources and through criminal networks that are basically exploiting the people of South Sudan. This is why now he's not interfering in Jonglei, and there's nothing being done to resolve the crisis there inside Jonglei. Everything is seen as state protecting him. And that is very sad. And what has happened in South Sudan is the state has been captured. That is what is in that report of the century that you shared with me. We have an organization, National Security Service, which is run as a private army of Salva Kiir, commanded by a Kolkur, and with a simple objective, which is to keep him in power. And they do this through 2 ways. One is suppression, and that includes human rights violations, summary execution, and all of that. And the other is through extraction of resources, right? And also by undermining the institutions of South Sudan. So you have a state that has been hijacked by people that think that it belongs to them and who are willing to do anything necessary, including engaging with criminal networks and criminal organizations that has exposed the whole of our country to organized crime. So what we have now in South Sudan is basically organized crime. You have criminals that are masquerading as statesmen. And this is the crisis we have. This is why our country cannot move forward. So what we face now is the challenge of that network collapsing. You have the criminal empire where Salva Kiir sits on top that is being dismantled. What is happening is his sickness is exposing the mafia to an inner struggle. And with this inner struggle, it may not be able to last long. You have also bosses that are sponsoring these criminal activities, worried about what would happen with this crisis of succession that the government is ignoring and that is not clear to them what is actually happening. So each one of them is acting in its own selfish interests. And that, combined with the proliferation of mafia and small arms and militias inside the country, we are likely to have a very chaotic 2023 ahead of us. And it's the same year that there will be crisis economically around the world, geopolitically. We have number of actors that were not usually engaged in the region will become active. All of these will affect peace and security of the East, Central, and Horn of Africa. And with now the crisis in Tigray coming to an end, there is also a possibility there will be more and more influx of small arms into South Sudan, which will continue to feed the ongoing insecurity. And with President Kiir only concentrating on himself, that will become the focus of all these chaos. It's going to be around the presidency and the succession and who's likely to take over. Edward, or someone from the clubhouse?
Did you get a question, doctor?
I think you disappeared.
Actually, I was down. I was preparing tea for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you get a question from Abani?
I did not hear.
You did not hear the question?
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm down. Abani, can you read the question again? Sorry.
Oh, okay. So the question from my brother, Dr. Manluk, he's saying that given the current situation in our country, do Dr. Bier thinks that there is any chance of the next leader coming from any other two regions rather than Bair Ajak, like for example, from Equatoria or Upper Nile? Can a leader come from there? Thank you.
Yes, I think there is a possibility, but this would require people working together. It will not happen by chance and by miracle, because President Salva is planning for the power to remain there. And those around him who are heading the security forces are all from there, right? You have a Kolukur, who is from Tony, is the one that is heading the National Security Service. You have Lualuwek, who is from Gogrial, is the one heading Tiger. You have Santino Dengwal from Awil, he's the one heading the SSPDF, the army. You have Majang Akech, who is from Lakes, he's the one who is heading the police. So you see, all the organized forces are controlled by people from one region. And I think because President Salva is not willing to let go, and because of that greed, these people who are heading these forces feel exposed and that anything can happen. So you may have a hesitant situation where one or combination of them may act. And if they do, then you may have the same scenario where the power remains in Bair Ajak. But I think if we begin to talk about this and bring people into it, so that it's not an issue that is only left to the SPLM, but to the people of South Sudan, then there is a good chance that someone like Juan Iga can be a transitional leader for at least the duration of the roadmap, and then implement reform that are needed for elections to be held. So that scenario, I think, is the best scenario that people of Upper Nile or Equatoria have. Then the other scenario is probably a violent uprising should any eventuality happen and someone who is not acceptable takes over. And this is where you may have someone like Dr. Riek once again mobilizing the Nuer community to take power in Juba. That scenario is also possible. All of these scenarios, I think will begin, some of them beginning to unfold very soon, because as I said before, there are risks that the ill health of the president has exposed him internally within his group, and then also with the head of the forces, and also with the regional actors that are now threatening his very own safety. So I think there is a need for a conversation to begin about an orderly transition so that we are able to have election, because that is the right way for the people to choose their leaders. It should not just be a group of elites sitting and saying this is the leader. We should have democratic elections that are free and that are credible, where South Sudanese can listen to different viewpoints and different policy platforms of different politicians and then come to a conclusion.
Okay, let's play a video, short video actually, and I want you to make a comment about that video. The country, they are sending 700 troops to Congo, and now the country is on fire in Upper Nile, as you know, Dr. Biar, and some areas in Equatoria. So I want you to make a comment on that. Yes.
Come on, go for Alaskari Mabagod Zeda. The Menugu Lagulis, Raptawali, Ita Nazil Ted. Agilis Aljay Albamchi, Lehefis and Nazam fi Belatani, Bemchi Fogu, Bemchi Harab and Nazam Zato. Bakharab and Nazam Kef, Biamchi Hush. في اختصاب بتاعت بنات والنسوان ما تعملوا طبعا الحرب بتاعنا الحصل لنا هنا ده فتح لنا باب بتاع الشتايم وانا دايركم تمشي تقفل الباب ده باعمال بتاعكم.
Dr. Peter Biar, زي ما انت عارف يعني, let me say this in Arabic. ناس بتاعنا في على النيل قاعد يموت. شولو قبل كم يوم طردهم الجيش الابيض, and those are civilians under the government protection. White Army, by the way, there will be passed like a station of SPDF like half a mile away, and the SSPDF in Marakal will leave them, so they go and march to Sholo Kingdom, Sholo land. They went and killed the people and displaced, and you are aware about that. Let's also come and take the example of Jungule area now, what happening to Murule, and you know that. في الوقت ده هل يا دكتور بيار حكومة مفروض يوقف الحرب في على النيل بروتكت دينكابور بقر بتاعهم, بروتكت مورليه, بروتكت لو نوير, ولا برسل الجيش لكونغو؟ هل كونغو ديل are they important than the South Sudanese? Welcome, Victor Biar, the floor is yours.
It's one of the most unfortunate that our president is much more interested in appearing to be doing something regionally, internationally, and he's no longer afraid of the failures in his own country. That day when he graduated those forces, there was a statement that was signed by the Troika countries talking about the situation in Upper Nile and also the situation in Jonglei. But here was our president sending the most well-trained and most qualified disciplined force to Congo rather than to areas where our people are vulnerable. This is very sad and very unfortunate. And again, it confirms what I was telling you before about the logic of our president, how he sees his mandate, how he sees his time in power. He sees it as his own power for his own protection. And the reason why he's doing this is worried about the arm embargo. He wants to be seen as contributing to regional peace and security, so that he uses that as a talking point to try to convince the international community to remove the arm embargo on South Sudan. He's trying to do that to endear himself to Museveni, and who is his friend and who he relies on to continue to supply him with weapons in violation of UN arm embargo. This is the reality. This is what he's doing. So it's very sad that our president is no longer seeing value in the lives of our people. He sees more value in the appearance of his regime collaboration in protecting regional peace. He was, I think he's being ridiculed by everyone. And someone was talking about yesterday how it was so sad for South Sudan to be asking for international support when it is pretending to be providing solutions to regional peace and security. I think Jesus Christ said it a long time ago that you should bring out the lock that is in your eye than a speck that is in your brother's eye. And what Salva is doing is exactly that. We need to focus on putting our house in order. We need to focus in ensuring lives. We need to, and property. You need to focus on letting our people understand that government is there to do something. One of which is to protect them from any physical harm, whether that is coming from civilians or that is coming from armed groups. This is the first objective of the state. And this is why I say we as South Sudanese citizens, as we enter 2023, we need to have a very serious conversation. What kind of future do we want? Where do we go forward? How do we agree on fundamental issues that are going to ensure that all of us have the freedom and the space that we need to realize all of our potential? That country, we can forge it together. It's not for one individual. It's not for the leaders. It's for all of us. And we have a role to play. And when we continue allowing divisions, we empower and enable the abuse that we are seeing in our country, where our government is no longer interested even in our own lives, and is no longer even pretending that it cares about the people of South Sudan. If we are sending this force because we want to improve the image of South Sudan, is that the only way in which we can improve the image? Are there no other ways? In fact, if we have peace and stability at home, that will actually improve our image. If we show that we are peaceful people, we focus on sports, like what our basketball team has been able to accomplish. That is the way we build our image. And this image is not just about the government. It's about the country. It's about the people. And unless if there is a seriousness for us to approach it, we will have difficulties. So, Brother Ajak, my thoughts and prayers are with all our people who are in the Shulu Kingdom and all the people in Jonglei who are being affected by this violence. It is about time for our leadership to care, but since they don't care, our people has to find a solution. And the solution we can find is by bringing a complete, total change to the situation in Juba. And we are going to watch if Salva Kiir again continue after February 20, extending his mandate. It will confirm that this guy is addicted to power. He has no plan whatsoever to ever return the power back to the people of South Sudan. And as a result, we as the people, we have to push him out. We have to begin dismantling some of the systems and instruments of oppression that the regime has built, including national security. More reports like the Century Report need to come out, exposing their crimes, making it available to the people of South Sudan so that it is known, not just only now, but for historical records. These are things that we must make sure happen, brother, because we cannot be bystanders. It's our country. I think we as a people, the minute we put our foot down, we'll begin to see new life and new spirit for ourselves and for our people.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. We have been here for 2 hours, and actually, I want to minimize the time for you, and then we can let you go. I have just 2 videos. I want to play them, and we can take, like, if there is 2 questions or 3 questions from the audience in Clubhouse and Facebook here, but then we'll let you go. We close the show. Let me play this video. I want you to make comment on the statement of the president on 25th in the church. Let me play it for you. Then, when you...
My people, I'm not coming to give you a speech, but just to greet you. Salam alaikum. I have been absent from the church for some time. Not because I don't want to pray in this church, but because there were elements in the cathedral. Whenever I come, they talk and بطريقة ما بليغ بمقام بتاعي نكون هنا. But I have forgiven them. You all know that I'm the leader of the SPLM and SPLA. We fought the war of liberation with all our hearts and all our commitments until we liberated the country and we raised our own flag. It is now years from the independence of South Sudan. But نحن في SPLM SPLA العمل حاجة كويس إنه جاء freedom للناس. We went back again and fought among ourselves, something that increased our sufferings and we have been condemned by the whole world because there was no reason liberating the country and then turn the same guns against ourselves. I want to tell you today that I have forgiven Dr. Riek Machar who has been fighting me since 1991. It will be up to him to apologize to the nation, or he doesn't. But I have forgiven him.
Dr. Peter Biar, I stopped the video here. What do you say?
To be honest with you, my brother, this was a very surprising speech. And it confirms what I was telling you. When people are clapping, it's not because the president has said anything that makes any sense. It's simply because they want to appease him. First of all, when you look at this video, the first thing you notice is that he's not healthy.
Exactly.
That is the first thing that you notice.
Exactly.
And this has been the theme of our conversation. Something is going on with him. The second thing that you realize is that he's not mentally stable, because what he's talking about are things that make no sense. How do you not go to church because somebody said something in the church? When they are preaching, they don't know what you have done at home. It's like I remember one time there is a friend of mine who committed something, and he went to church, and then the preacher was preaching about something similar to the problem that he just did. And he thought that the preacher was singling him out. Yeah, he said the guy is preaching about me. No, the guy is not preaching about you. He has no idea what you have done in your house. But that is the way God talked to people. So when Salva Kiir, our president, was going to church, and I know the preacher was preaching about corruption, which is what his government is doing.
Yes.
The preacher was preaching about tribalism, which is what his government is doing. The preacher was preaching about unknown gunmen and illegal assassination that were happening in Juba, and that is what his government is doing. The preacher was talking about moral code, how a Christian man should conduct himself, how a Christian leader must be a good example to the Christians. These things he feels they were targeting him. And this is why he went and stopped coming to church. Now, that is a very funny logic, and it makes you wonder what our president really even understand about Bible and about his faith as Christian. Right? We don't go to church because of the pastor. We go to church because of our relationship with God. And pastor is there because he has the knowledge of the Bible. He understands Bible better than us, and he's able to interpret it based on the realities we face, so that we realize when we are committing sin, that what we are doing is sin, and therefore we can change. And in Catholic Church, you can go for confession. He talks about, I have forgiven them. I have forgiven Riek. When was the last time President Salva Kiir, as a Catholic, ever gone for confession? When did he go? Has he gone for confession at all since 2013? Because he keeps talking about forgiving people. This is consistent with a person who is not able to reflect on his own shortcomings. Salva Kiir is not able to realize that he himself has made mistakes. He only sees the mistakes of others. So he's always ready to blame other people. He never owns up to his own mistakes. He never owned up. 1991 has happened 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. This is not even what we are talking about. The reason why 91 is still relevant now is because Salva Kiir used it in 2013 to rally up the Dinka base against Nuer, which led to the massacre that happened inside Juba.
Thank you.
We know.
Thank you.
It was used for political purpose to turn the tribes against each other and therefore allow him to remain in power through the support of the Dinka. Why are we talking about it? 1991, when it happened, is not Riek Machar to be blamed alone. even the mainstream SPLA must be blamed, because the system was being run in a very dictatorial ways, the same way that is being run today. Right? Of course, there were bad consequences of 1991 because it divided our people and made us vulnerable to the North Sudanese. But there were the genuine feelings that were also there, which he did not address in 2013, and which brought back the war. How is he to then now come and talk about he has forgiven Riek? This is 2022. They signed the agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan in 2015. That is 7 years ago. And they have been allegedly implementing the peace agreement for all this time since then. Is he telling us all this time he has not forgiven Riek until now? That this is the moment that he has finally forgiven him? And why must Riek apologize? What must Riek apologize for? What about him, Salva Kiir? Where is his apology? After all, he is the leader of the country. Why is he not apologizing to the people of South Sudan for killing them, for impoverishing them, for turning them against one another, for stealing their resources, for defaming them, for bringing shame to the Republic of South Sudan? Shame that will take generations to be removed. Right? The whole world know when we were fighting, we were not fighting just to raise the flag. If that is what the president thinks, that was the objective of the liberation struggle, is so that we can raise the flag, raise it so that what happened? It's not about raising the flag. It was about marginalization in terms of development, in terms of access to resources. It was about justice, so that everyone is treated fairly. This is what we want. We did not want to fight so that we raise the flag and so that the SPLM and Salva Kiir can become our ruler. That is not what we want. And he comes to church and talk nonsense. We wanted a country that can deliver for our people. And we have not realized that. And that is why there is power struggle. That is why we have turned those guns against ourselves, because he has proven time again that he's a divider. He's the divider in chief. It's not a commander in chief. He's someone that only thrives on division, on chaos. A person that is addicted to power. He's a power-hungry person. That is who he is. He would rather have the whole country die and finish so that he can hold on to power and lord over it. Not that he would deliver anything, but so that he can be the leader and so that he can talk his nonsense and people will clap and say, yee, because he has talked. And all he's talking about is a complete nonsense. The president has no ability to look at himself. And that's why I say he doesn't understand Christianity. Christianity is about looking in, especially now that we are about to enter into the new year. When you enter into a new year, you have to look back at the whole year that happened. Like now is that we are about to enter a new year, my brother Edward Ajak. I will now examine what I have done in 2022. And I will accept responsibility for my mistake. And I will pray to God to bless me so that I will do better in 2023. Does the president ever reflect on his mistakes and what he will do better? If he can come to the SPLM bold-faced and say, I have never failed you, when the country is divided, when the country is miserable, when the country is a laughingstock of the world, can he really claim that he has not failed us? It shows that he's a person that cannot reflect. And a person that cannot reflect cannot grow. Okay? Our president has stopped growing since the time he was a commander because he doesn't accept responsibility. Takes when he used to lead people to the battle, he will go and commit ridiculous mistakes and people will die in large numbers. People will be defeated. So Garang stopped sending him to the front line. Instead of him reflecting on what he has done as a commander so that he learn and he will become better, he always blame others. He's a person that has planted a mindset of victimhood in his head. He's always the victim. He's always the victim. He's always the victim. He doesn't understand that he has been the perpetrator. He's the person who is dividing the people of South Sudan. He's the one that is holding them back. He's the one that is responsible for death. And by the way, even God has now accepted that. And why I say before that he's in danger is because he's not listening to the voice of the Lord. The voice of the Lord was telling him, President Salva Kiir, unite my people. The Pope, the Holy Father himself, he kissed his feet. And he promised that he will keep people united. But then what did he do when he returned? He is violent as ever. If you notice, by the way, the president has become very short-tempered. He loses his anger. And he hold on to grudges. He hold on to grudges. Anything, he hold on to it in his heart. There's no spirit of forgiveness, right? Everything that he say is very shameful. It lacks wisdom. Any word that come out of his mouth is just full of foolishness. Any act that he commits is an act that is full of shame. Why? Because God has withdrawn his blessings from him. God has withdrawn his anointment because he's cursed. Not just only because we are Christian, but when you reflect on it from traditional religion, this is curse. And God will bring signs to show that he has withdrawn his anointment. Right? Abraham Chol is right. God has withdrawn his anointment. And it's not, by the way, about any specific date. It happened long ago because God brings leaders for a purpose. When he was sworn in Juba, Archbishop Morona was the one that first called him Joshua. He became known as Joshua. Why? Because Garang was seen as Moses, and God did not allow Garang to come to independent South Sudan the same way that Moses did not see the promised land. Salva Kiir was given the task of taking people to the promised land. His mandate was actually supposed to end at independence. But because he has a weak heart, a heart of a power addict, someone that is purely addicted to power, he did not imagine giving up power. He clung on to it, including by bringing war, rape, and destruction on the people of South Sudan. And God gave him warning, Salva, leave. He's not. Until now, God has shown to the world that this person no longer has his blessings. He's there because he's strong-headed and he does not understand the voice of the Lord. And what do you think God is going to do? He will do more. He will do more. And the people of South Sudan now, they have got that signal that they wanted from the Lord, that the blessing of the gods are no longer with Salva Kiir. Even those who are not Christian, even the spear masters, you read signs. You know when the rain is going to come. You know when there is going to be a flood. You know when there is going to be lack of water, when there's going to be famine. You know, signs come. And God has now given all the signs to the people of South Sudan, including President Kiir. The question is whether we are listening to these signs and what will happen. And what will happen will be consistent with how Lord has treated others. If you read the book of Kings, and especially the Israelis' king, if you read like king like Ahab was someone that suppressed the people of the Lord. He used to prey on the innocent, on the weak. One of the acts that he did was the killing of Naboth, because he wanted to grab the land of Naboth and use it for himself so that he built his wealth and that of his family. And he colluded with people to have Naboth framed and stoned to death. And God sent the prophet to him to tell him that Naboth, dogs are going to lick your blood in the same place that they lick the blood of Naboth. I have thought that he was joking. Now, it didn't happen immediately. It took time, right? And Lord, by the way, has the patience because he lives for eternity. So a year, 5 years, whatever, is nothing. but the vengeance of the Lord always comes. And when it comes, it's destructive, right? So this is what the president must understand. He cannot come to the house of Lord and play politics of division that he keeps on playing in the SPLM. To come to the house of the Lord and tell the people about Riek Machar and remind them of 1991, forgetting his own role in the suffering that he has caused for the people of South Sudan, forgetting that he's the one that has failed to deliver, as seen by every indicators. Corruption Perception Index is the most corrupt in the world. Social Progress Index is the least developed in the world. Human Development Indicators, among the least in all the indicators. Freedom Score, the least free, with only a score of 1 in Freedom House, Global Freedom Score. A country that he is completely destroyed and mismanaged. And he thinks people just want power. No, people want services. People want rule of law. People want justice. People want accountability. People want jobs. Things that he has shown time and again that he's unable to deliver on. So why does he keep on imposing himself on the people of South Sudan? Because he believes the country belongs to him and his family. And he just wants to rule and for them to steal resources from it. This is how he thinks. So that video was very disappointing. And Dr. Riek need to respond, not in a way that will create violence for the people, but the way that will really show to the people of South Sudan the need for a genuine conversation.
But do you think Dr. Riek will respond? Sorry, continue. Yeah.
No, Dr. Riek, I don't think he will respond because he is under house arrest. He cannot even go to Gumbo Shirka.
Yes.
He's being intimidated. But you know that he's not happy because he's being painted, and throughout he has been painted as the bad guy for South Sudan.
Exactly.
He in particular has always used him as the bad guy, as a way to cloud his failures so that people can always blame Riek. And Riek has never been president of South Sudan, ever. Riek has never been a leader of South Sudan. Riek has only been a deputy to him. Right? And by the way, the only time that there was a bit of performance in the government was when Riek was actually with him in the beginning. So you cannot blame Riek for 91. 91 happened. A lot of massacres happened. Was he not the one who initiated the Wounded Peace Agreement of 1997 that brought the Dinka and Nuer together? Why did he do that if there was no forgiveness? Or did he do that because he wanted to weaken Garang, the way that he was basically undermining John Garang? This was 1997. He was the one that pushed for Wounded. And since Wounded, majority of Dinka and Nuer people forgave themselves. Trade resumed. People were moving. It was only him in 2013 that reminded people of 1991. And by the way, Dr. Riek apologized. I can tell you firsthand, he apologized twice for what happened in 1991. The first time he apologized was in the house of Dr. John Garang in Juba. This was in 2011, after independence. He apologized, even he collapsed. He even shed tears. He apologized for everything that has happened. And the second time he apologized was at my wedding. At my wedding, December 17, in 2011. He apologized to all the people for all the bad thing that has happened. But when did the president ever sincerely apologize? When has the president acknowledged that he has divided the people? When has the president acknowledged that he has destroyed our economy? When will the president ever acknowledge that he has destroyed our environment? When will the president ever acknowledge that he has sold our resources in advance? When will the president ever acknowledge that he has shamed the image of our country globally, not just only in South Sudan, but across the world, that he has shamed all the image of Africa, all the image of Black people around the world? When will he acknowledge? And why did he do all of that? Because he's addicted to power. He cannot imagine being anything but in power. That is, now he's becoming clear to everybody, including those who are enabling him. And those who enable him will enable him at their own risk. And they will also reap the seeds of destruction that is embedded in this president of ours, who has been cursed, by the way, has been cursed by the God, and who, by the way, is already witnessing the removal of the Lord. How does the Lord remove kings that are disobedient? Let him read it in the book of Kings.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Wonderful, my brother. Thank you so much. I really got nothing to say. You said it all today, Dr. Peter Biar. Let me play a short video for you. Then I want you to make a comment. I want to play a video of Prophet Abram Shaul, the day actually they jailed him actually for 2 years. Yes, I want you to watch that video and make a comment on it.
Yes, it's a prize for new beginnings. Yeah, we love this country, we love our president, we love our nation, but change needs price. Change will come from by accident. Huh? What do you do after you come out? I will see the change. I'm here now working for a change. New life will come for the country. And the young president is a major need for this time. We need a young president. Our president is do his work, is tired. We need to rest and see for a young president. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Dr. Biar, that was Prophet Abram. The day actually they are taking him for 2 years and 8 months in jail. He said very important 2 things. That was the price of the change. And you too, you was a victim of change. You was in the jail. And you continue talking and actually fighting for the change in the South Sudan. The other point you made it clear the younger president is the major need. What are you saying on this, Dr. Biar? Thank you.
Well, my brother, I like to actually make this analysis not only as a political analyst or a politician, but as a Christian citizen. Okay? That is the label I want to carry. El modern Messiah, right? As a Christian citizen. That is the angle from which I want to talk. As Christian, we are taught to model the behavior of our Lord Jesus Christ. That is why we take his name. We are born through him, right? And Christianity has 3 main virtues. Love, right? Because love is what unites us with God. We love God and we love our neighbor. That is a pillar of our faith. Second is we must have hope in God's salvation, in the return of our Lord Jesus Christ. That is very, very, very important. Third, we might have faith. What is faith? It's not only believing that God exists, but it's believing that the power of God lives through us, and that through that power, we are capable of great acts. Okay? Now, God, as I told you before, is all about love. Love your neighbor. So if we are Christian, how do I love my neighbor if my neighbor is dying of disease, of hunger, is being killed, is being tortured? My faith will compel me to help my neighbor, to create an environment where my neighbor can live in peace. Right? That sometimes for Christian citizens require civic participation. God, as we know, acts through people. He acts through people. So we have to accept to be instruments of the Lord for the fulfillment of his will. Now, in the case of Abraham Chol, he's a man of God as you know him. What he said is that God gave him a vision. God gave him a vision that Salva Kiir regimes had collapsed. And he mentioned a specific date. He mentioned the July of last year. Okay, that is what he said. That is why he was detained. Now, people may accuse him that he's rebelling or he's planning a coup or whatever. All of those are baseless because he's a man of God. He's not a general. He's not in the military. He is saying the vision that God gave him, right? And he has to be true to God because he's a Christian. Okay? That is what he said. Now, some people call him liars because the president is still there. What they don't understand, when God withdrew his anointment of Saul and anointed David to be his successor, it did not happen immediately. It took time, years, decades. So I think what Abraham Chol is saying, we are now seeing it. I think God is also reacting to some of these dynamics that are happening in our country in real time. Abraham Chol was being called a liar and is being persecuted. God show it to the world. The suffering that people of South Sudan are going through daily basis, people who are being tortured, people who are being killed, whose bad things are happening to them when they're enduring these terrible acts. Well, God is watching them. So what Abraham Chol has said, I think, is inevitable. Whether President Kiir likes it or not, there are powers bigger than him. And God Almighty is the biggest of all powers, is the strongest. And if he's not listening to the voice of the Lord will find his own way to humble him in the front of South Sudanese and in the front of the world. God is the only mighty force. And he has made his command known to all Christians, to all people in the world, that Salva Kiir is no longer his anointed. Is no longer the anointed of the Lord. He is there as disobedient, a cruel leader who is disobeying the command of his Lord. And God has given you all the sign that you need in the world now. He has given you the sign that this is someone who is not there because he favors him. So I think it's important for us to listen to the voice of Abraham Chol. It's important for us to prepare ourselves for change. Change is coming, my people. It is coming. Whether it will be violent, whether it will be peaceful, whether it will be chaotic, whatever way it will be, but it is coming. We have to prepare ourselves for it so that we benefit from it and so that it does not destroy us. My brother Edward, Abraham Chol is someone, if you go through his story, how God called him to be his servant, you can learn a lot about what God plans for each one of us. God called him to be instrument for his word. And he's someone who knows Bible inside out. He's someone who is committed to prayer. Of course, all of us as human beings, we have our own shortcomings. And every one of us have those. But his heart is in the right place. He's being persecuted, just like the prophets that we read in the Old Testament. And always God Almighty is able to stand up for what he has ordained. And it shall come to pass as he has communicated to his messengers throughout history, throughout the Bible, including the current days in which we are alive.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Actually, I remain with only 2 videos. There is a video, I want to play it, so that video is connected to what Salva Kiir said in the church. You forgive Riek Machar. So let me play the video, and I want you to make comment on that video, Doctor. Just just like one minute. Yeah, yes, it's here. Just 1 minute. Yeah, sorry, just it's almost.
No problem. No problem, brother.
Yeah, just processing the video. Just 1 minute. Tawfiq, do you abandon the question?
Indeed, I just want to remind Dr. Peter Biar of our sister Ayla question earlier.
Okay.
She said, what do you think that Dr. Wani will be the savior to all of us? And there is someone too who asked, like, how if Dr. Riak, Dr. Wani is escaped from being the next leader? I know you talk about that earlier. And also, people are concerned, like, why is always Dr. Riak is associated with violence all the time, like violent uprising? Why is Kiir associating him all the time to the violence? Thank you.
Victor, do you want to answer that question before I play the video?
Yes. Look,
go ahead.
I'm not saying that Waniga will be the savior of South Sudan. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is he has the best chances than anyone to keep the country united and to take the country towards election. Now, whether he will run in those elections or not, that remains to be seen. But because of his hierarchy and being in the system, right, and also being from a different region than the region the president comes from, makes him best placed to preside over a period of reform and transformation that will be necessary for Junubin themselves to choose their own leaders. That is all what I'm saying. It's not that Wani will be the savior, but what I'm saying is he has the best chances, because if he's passed over and you give power to someone else, then the question is going to be how? What modality did you use? It's not going to be legal. It will not be based on the current constitutional dispensation in the country, right? So it will create a situation where, well, if that person take it, then who do they think they are? So why not me, right? So what I'm saying is the president should do the right thing immediately and begin to declare, make it very clear that should any eventuality happen, then Waniga should be the person. Otherwise, when he doesn't do that, he's allowing a situation where everyone that is around him will be preparing now to take power by force. Now, I agree with those who are concerned. Why is Riek always being framed as the one who is violent? The whole country is a country of warlords. Riek is not the only warlord. Riek is one of many warlords. And Salva Kiir himself is also a warlord. So everyone is a warlord. It's not just only Riek. Is Riek fighting a vacuum or fighting himself? He's fighting somebody. And why is he fighting? What happened in 2013? We all know what happened in 2013. The conflict was engineered by the president because he was afraid of losing power in the SPLM. And then he used the 1991 and all the tribal wounds between the Dinka and Nuer to light the flame so that he can put these two tribes against each other. That was nothing to blame Dr. Riek for. Now, Riek, of course, took advantage of the situation, right? Because he wanted now to remove Salva Kiir through force. And he would have if Museveni has not intervened, right? But then there are so many warlords. Yao Yao is a warlord. He's there now in political bureau. You don't hear the president complaining about Yao Yao. Why is he always complaining about Riek? Yao Yao is there as a warlord. He's promoting him. Olony is a warlord. He has been promoting Olony all along and paying him and bribing him. Garwich Dwal is a warlord. The whole country is full of warlords. So this is a way of president, because he knows that many Dinkas, they hold grudges against Riek because we have not had a time to heal and to forgive ourselves. So he always go back to those wounds as a way of consolidating his power, because now he's shaken. There's no doubt the regime is shaken. It's seriously shaken, and this will continue, by the way. 2022-23 will begin with a lot of very bad news for the regime, and it will continue with so many bad news, especially as people now begin the secession politics, and people fight over who should be next. So my brother Edward, I think that is what I can say. Maybe we play one more video and then we will break. We
okay.
have some guests coming at 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So at 4 o'clock. So okay.
So maybe in the next 2 to 3 minutes, if we can, or 5 minute maximum, and then we can close.
Okay. I think that will not be possible. But let me stop the video and give if there is a question from the. I want you to make a comment on the statement by General Kwalmanyang on December 19, 2022. He said, let me read to you. I am not frustrated with the current situation. The worst I tell people, sorry, we the SPLM are not the responsible and not to be blamed for this insecurity. This is something prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. God punished Sudan, and we are the Sudanese. The second quotation from him, we keep on the word Sudan. We don't move out of Sudan name, and we don't create a new name, and we are Sudanese. We knew very well that Sudan has been cursed in the Bible, which is not true. So this curse continue to be until the time God will say enough is enough. Now that people of South Sudan become free, and I don't blame us. I don't blame us a punishment of God. Is that because of your time, Dr. Bair? Just make the comment, and actually we'll let you go down. We remain with people they can up and also have bring. What are you saying?
Yes, my brother. I was very shocked with those two statements. First of all, Joram Kwalmanyang Juk is someone that I can proudly say that I have respected him for many years, because he was a strong leader in the SPLM. He was a commander of the Red Army. He was someone that stood up for. He was very courageous, and even within the government, when he was governor of Jonglei State, he stood up. Remember when Yao Yao war initially started, it was against him. So he's someone that I highly respect. But I was very disappointed with these two statements. The statement about the president ruling for life, that one was a contradiction. Kwalmanyang has said since last year that he was actually supporting my generational exit idea. He said that his generation, they have finished everything. They have been in power for 17 years, and instead of trying to build a country after the war, they have destroyed whatever was left by the war. That one is a statement, is right there. And he wanted to retire. What happened? He was summoned by the president. And now we realize that he has changed his mind. So why is he changing his mind? He's either he's being threatened, or is being bribed. He's one of those two. And it's become so bad to the extent that he's willing to misinterpret the Bible to excuse Salva Kiir. Obviously, God prophesies Sudan to be punished. And the reasons for those are mentioned in the Bible. It was because the leaders and the people turn against God. They turn away from God, like the way the president has run the country over the last 17 years. A country in which division has been allowed to thrive. A country in which tribalism has been allowed to thrive. A country in which lies and deception have been allowed to thrive. A country in which truth is suppressed, that truth is hated. This is the country that the president has created. When you have a country like that, it cannot remain peaceful. It will have wars, it will have chaos, and with those wars, there will be death, the economy will be destroyed, there will be poverty, people will be overthrown. But that does not happen in vacuum. It happened because of the poor leadership that the SPLM has shown and that President Salva Kiir has shown. The SPLM is responsible because they have been unable to tell the president the truth. When Dr. Ajak was the only one willing to face the president in 2013, people hide, and they use the 1991 crisis as a way of creating a war and taking advantage politically of the situation that Dr. Ajak was talking about. It's the same thing that has happened with him, Kwal, when he said that the generation should exit. This thing was used against him, and this is why now he has turned U-turn and he's singing the same song of psychopaths that all the other psychopaths in the house are singing. So it's very sad to see such a courageous general, courageous liberator, reduced to just another psychopath, no different from Tutkeo or Trodeng Mawien. This is absolutely very sad. But if we are going with the Bible, then we should also remember that Bible is a very interesting book, and there are so many things in it. I have already quoted a few chapters before. But if we are talking about Isaiah, then also let's not forget his prediction that he said, Isaiah 9, chapter 2, that those who live in darkness, those who live in the valley of the shadow of death, have seen a great light. That also meant us, that a time will come when you read the book of Isaiah, you will read it all, and time will come when the Lord will return back to the people of Sudan, and he will bless them, and the people of Sudan will bring gifts to the Lord Almighty at Mount Zion. Right? It's the same book of Isaiah that Coleman Young quoted, that thing is written. Curse is not to be forever. The curse will last for the duration that we have the cursed leader. And now we know who is the cursed leader. So as long as we have this cursed leader, we will continue to be cursed. It's not the country that is cursed. It's not the people who are cursed. It's the leader who is cursed. And this is why God has singled him out among all the leaders of the world for a shame that has never been witnessed in history. So let us not pretend that God is the one that is cursing the people of South Sudan. It's the curse of the leaders, and especially with leaders not doing the right thing. Leaders like Kwal Manyang himself, not being able to face the president with the truth and tell him, look, just like John Garang raised your hand in Rumbek in 2005, now is the time that you raise the hand of James Wani Iga as the transitional leader for the next 2 years and organize the country and prepare people for election. They need to do that. And if they don't, and instead they find it easy to put the name of Lord in vain rather than to confront the cruel leader who is suppressing the people of South Sudan, who is suppressing the prophets of the Lord, like Abraham Chol, who is simply coming to him and telling him, let my people go, let my people go. And instead of listening to that word, he's throwing them in jail, he's punishing them, he's killing them, he's intimidating them. Then Lord Almighty will show that he's the Lord of all and that he's responsible for all the fate of mankind. One thing that I noticed also, brother, about the president in that video where he spoke at the church, he's visibly afraid. You can see the fear in him. He's so afraid that I feel right now, even in his own house, he probably jumped by himself. He jumps because there is no sadness than when God Almighty abandoned you. What happened? Let's imagine in a life of human being when God abandoned you. What happened? You are truly alone. You are surrounded by darkness, a sea of darkness with no light, because God is missing in your life, and God is the source of all light. You cannot see the truth. You cannot hear the truth. You are not capable of love. You're not capable of forgiveness. You're not capable of enjoyment. Even though he's a leader and he's the president and all the resources of the country are his, he is unable to enjoy. Why? Because God has abandoned him. Now his life is completely empty. It's the saddest of all. And it is that sadness that radiates across the whole country. It is that curse that radiates and that touches our whole country. And everything that it touches turns into destruction. So now that the people know where the curse is, it is like what happened with King Oedipus. If you read the Greek mythology by Sophocles, Sophocles wrote the play called Oedipus the King. Oedipus was a Greek king who did two tragedies. The first thing he did, he killed his own father. Okay? He killed his father. The second tragedy he did, he married his own mother. And he produced children with her. Now, interestingly, he did not know when this thing happened. When Oedipus was born, there was a prophecy that was given to the priest of Apollo that tell the father of Oedipus that you will have a son. And that son, when he grow old, he will kill you and he will marry his mother. That time the wife was pregnant and was about to give birth. When the wife gave birth, the king ordered his chief assassin. This would be someone like a Kolokur. Huh? To take the kid to the forest and to kill him. So they took the kid to the forest. But instead of killing him, they went and messed up his job. It's like what happened to some of us in Nairobi. People are sent to come and kill us, but then the thing doesn't work out and you are safe. So they went and left the kid in the bush, and they said the kid will die by himself. What happened? Some sheep keeper, he came and he heard the cry of the child. He went and took the child, and he went to a different kingdom. And in that kingdom, there is a king who he wanted a child and he never had a child.
Wow.
So now he took this child to be his own and he raised him to be a prince. Now, when he became older, this Oedipus, now he went to the priest because he wanted to know about his future. When he went there, the priest went and told him, Oedipus, there is a prophecy. You will kill your father and you will marry your own mother. So when he heard this, it was very shocking. He did not know that his adopted child, that is not the biological child of the king.
Mm.
So he said, now I'm leaving, because if I'm going to be the one to kill my father and marry my father and my mother, I do not want to be associated with this shame. So what did he do? He left, abandoned the area, and he went. Now, when he went on the road, and this is the plan of God, when he went on the road, the actual king, who is his father, the one who ordered his chief assassin to have him killed, the Akolokur, who then fell, he was passing. And he doesn't know that this is his son. He thought like this thing has been killed long time ago, and the prophecy has been averted that it will not happen again. Now, They met on the road, and the guy was passing. His bodyguards, the bodyguards of the king, they began attacking this guy. Why are you passing so fast with your horse in the front of the king? The way now, if you drive anywhere near Salva Kiir, you will just be shot. But this guy was very trained. So they attacked him, he came out with his sword, and he killed them. And then his own father, he did not know, began attacking him also. And during the fight, he killed him. So he did. So now he went to the town, not knowing this is the town of his father. He went there and he hid. And then now the news broke out the king has been killed. He did not tell that he's the one who killed. And then there was the queen. So the queen now was looking for the new husband. And they put a riddle. The riddle was, there is an animal who walks with 4 legs in the morning. In the afternoon, he will walk with 2 legs. In the evening, he will walk with 3 legs. Name this animal, right? And whoever will get the right answer, he will become the new king, and he will marry the queen. Huh? So imagine he's sitting there, standing there, people are getting it wrong. Then he raised his hand and he got the answer right. He said, the answer is a human being. When human being is a baby, he crawl, 2 hands and the knees, that is 4 legs. When he grow older, which is in the afternoon, he becomes strong and is able to walk. He walk with 2 legs. Then in the evening, he become old. When he become old in the evening, he take a stick, and the stick help him the way we see our president now walking with the stick is old. Okay? So then everybody applauds. He became the king. Now, he married the queen, not knowing this is his mother. So now he married his mother. And they stayed. He ruled even for 10 years. He had kids, 2 boys and a daughter, 2 daughters, okay? Until they became teenagers. And then now, famine broke out across the land. People began dying. Animals are dying. All the livestock. There is war. There is chaos all over the country. What happened? Now the Lord Apollo sent the priest to the king. He came to the king. The same way Chol Maket, Abraham Chol, came to Salva Kiir.
Yes.
And he told the king, look, King Oedipus, the country is cursed. But it's not the country, it's you who is cursed. You have done the abominable. The destruction that is happening is not because of you. And by the way, what happened before the priest came, he had called a big gathering, like what happened with the national dialogue.
Yes.
He has called the big gathering so that people will make the sacrifices. He declared a day of prayer. He has done all these things. And then people came and told him, you should go. You, the king, you are the problem. We need a new king. But he didn't listen. He said, these people, they're joking. Now, the God said, then the prophet came. And he told him, you are the problem. You are cursed. And you are cursed because you have done the abominable. You have killed your own father. And you have married your mother. And the wife you have here is your mother. The kids that you have here, yes, they're your kids, but they're also your brothers and sisters. Now when he realized, finally, the abomination that he has brought to his own family, to his own kids, to his own nation, to his own wife. So the first thing that happened automatically, his wife went and commits suicide. Then he took a knife because he didn't want to see again, because he will be seeing his kids and they are his brothers and sisters. So he took a knife and blinded himself. He poked his own eyes with a knife. And then he left. By the way, this story is over the course of 3 books. There is the first book, Oedipus the King. Then there is the second book called the Antigone, which is about one of his daughters. And then the third book, which is about his son. The curse ended up destroying his own family. By his the two sons, they ended up killing themselves. They went to war against one another. This one killed the other one killed the other one. They died together. His daughter committed a suicide. Everyone in the family dies because of this curse. And what happened at the end? The city that he was a king of was a city called Thebes. When Oedipus finally died, all the chaos that was happening in the country stopped. All the war stopped. All the famine stopped. And now the rain resumed. The country was beautiful. The animals were growing. Children were happy. Birds were singing. Peace and harmony was restored. And the order of God was restored in the land of Thebes. It's the same thing that is happening. And Salva Kiir hates the word of the prophet. At least for Oedipus, he did not try to kill the prophet of the God. Salva Kiir has even gone worse than Oedipus by trying to intimidate. What will happen to this man? Knowing what we know of human history, knowing what we know of the mysterious way in which God works. And this is why I keep telling the people, as we enter the new year, let's reflect on the promises of the Lord. The Lord has said in the book of Isaiah that Sudan is the land of milk and honey. It's a land that overflows with abundance. And if you remember, this is where our national anthem comes.
Yes.
Oh God, we grace and bless, with grace and glorify you for your grace on South Sudan, land of great abundance. That abundance was prophesied in Isaiah. And then the prayer, uphold us united in peace and harmony. But who is dividing us? Who is creating chaos among us? God wanted to show to the people of South Sudan so that there is no doubt ever that the prayers of our people are being heard by the Lord and that he has a plan that no one can reverse, a plan that is going to be seen just as we have seen it across time. And the promises of the Lord will be delivered to our people. So let us prepare ourselves. Let us prepare ourselves to be worthy of these promises, to be worthy of the salvation of the Lord, so that 2023 become the year we reclaim our country back. May this year be a great year for the people of South Sudan across the world. Maybe the year of unity, maybe a year of prosperity, maybe a year of a new beginning, where we will begin to build that nation as we sing in our national anthem, the land of great abundance, where Lord will uphold us united and in peace and harmony. A motherland where we will always be comfortable in. This is the promise Lord has made to us. And what is standing between us and that promise is one individual called Salva Kiir, whose curse is the cause of all the trouble we have in the country. If you see the wars that are happening, the violence, the destruction, the rape, the hunger, everything is connected to his stay in power and his disobedience to the Lord. When Joshua brought the people of Israel out and brought them to the new land, he did not rule for life. He only did his mission, and a new generation of leaders came. These became known, by the way, as the judges. In the Bible, you read the book of Judges. There were 40 of them that came ahead of King Saul. Until now, after the judges, God finally gave Israel king Saul, and then Saul disobeyed God, and then David came. So now, since 2011, it was supposed to be the time Salva Kiir hand over power because his mission, according to the Lord, was finished. But because of his greed for power and for money, he kept on. He used division. He used everything that he could use to hold on to power, violence, killing people, so that he remained there, therefore offending the God. That was the time that judges, new rulers, were supposed to come. He has disobeyed Lord. He has brought curse. God has now made it known that here is the source of the curse. Here is where the curse lie. And it's just like when in your body, when you have cancer in your body, if you wake up tomorrow and it's discovered that you have cancer in certain part of your body, the treatment you go through is called chemotherapy. What chemotherapy does is try to isolate cancer in a specific area and prevent it from moving forward so that it can then be removed. It can be taken out. And when it has spread to a particular part, say a leg, that part has to be amputated, even if it is your own body. So in our country now, we know where the cancer is, the source of this cancer. And the question is, when are we going to remove it? It's not a question of if we are removing it. It's a question of when. And God Almighty is already working with us to remove it. Just like Abraham Joel said, I'm working. That working could be in different ways. Could be through prayers. It could be through his own engagement as a Christian citizen. All of these ways are ways that we should be working. But we should not leave this to Abraham Joel alone. It requires our prayers. When a leader is so power hungry and doesn't want to leave power, the only way in which God will remove this leader is through death. So right now, the prayer for freedom in South Sudan, the prayer for new beginning, will be the same as a prayer for his death, because he's standing there preventing the country to move forward when it is very clear that he's the source of all the suffering. So the question will become, will he do that or will he not? Will he remove himself like Oedipus did? Oedipus did not continue as a king, by the way, after he learned the bitter truth from the prophet of the Lord. He left. He became homeless. He ended up dying alone, blind, and a beggar. This is the future that happened to leaders that are cursed by God.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abram. Actually, you said it all. In Arabic, we say, kafet wa fit. I think I have nothing again to ask you about, because you said you have guests coming, and already you did the final statement to our viewers and people of South Sudan. Anything you want to say before you leave?
I just want to tell our people, let us remain hopeful. Let us remain true to our faith, whether you are Christian, you are a Muslim, or any other religion, or our African traditional religion. We believe in the same God. He is the master of the universe, and he speaks to us in the same ways. Let's listen to his voice. Let's listen to the voice of the Lord. Our president has made it clear that he's no longer listening. But those of us who have ears, let us use them. Let us listen to the voice of the Lord. Let us continue to pray, and let us also work hard so that the promises of the Lord are realized in 2023. May God bless you and your families. May it be a year of renewal. May it be a year of peace. May it be a year of justice, because there can never be peace without justice. And don't forget, people united can never be defeated. So let us be united, and therefore nothing can ever defeat us. And don't forget, our people are not cursed. Our beautiful land is not cursed. We know where the curse is, and now God Almighty is helping us to remove it. So let us double our work, and let us educate our people and focus exclusively on this issue. How do we ensure that there is a transition? And this transition happened on time in February 2023. And if it doesn't happen afterward, it happens by any means necessary, as it is the will of the Lord. May God bless you all. Wishing you a prosperous 2003. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.